This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Merhaba arkadaşlar. Bugün açılışında gördüğünüz gibi orada yazıyorum diye baktım, yazmıyorum. Stanley Parable adlı oyunu oynayacağız. Bu oyunu çekmemin sebebi diğer YouTube kanalına baktım. Çekenler var ama devamını getirmemişler. Ben inşallah size tüm sonları, tüm başarımları göstermeye çalışacağım. Bununla ilgili araştırma yaptım. Elimde kağıtlar var. Belgelerle konuşuyorum. İsterseniz başlayalım. Ne dedi? Ofisten dışarı çıktı.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Garip bir şey var. Bunun dememesi gerekiyordu. Ama ben yine de bunu dememiş gibi davranacağım. Neyse. Bu ilk bölüm arkadaşlar. Ondan dolayı bu konuşan kişi anlatıcı oluyor. Anlatıcı diye geçiyor. O anlatışın dediklerini yapalım.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Evet, soldaki kapıdan geçelim. Kapılar da arkamızdan kapanıyor. Ne güzel.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Neyse hadi. Senin dediğini yapacağım. Sonrakine senin karşısına yapacağım.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Şu an senin dediğinin hiçbirini yapmayasın var ama hadi. Senin dediğini yapacağız. Senin dediğini yapalım. Patronun banyosu da özel.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Tabii de bilme ihtimalim yok. Kim demiş? Allah Allah. Ben bilir miyim hiç şifreyi? Orada o klavye olduğunu bile bilmiyordum. Arkadaşlar bilmem biliyor musunuz? Şu ortadaki resim.
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Şu ortadaki resim arkadaşlar oyunun ikonu. Dördüncü yaptım herhalde.
2845.
Allah Allah. Gazeteye sayılar direyim bakalım. Belki tutar.
Stanley simply began entering, forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Abi yanlışlıkla hikayeyi bozdum mu ya? Bozmak istemiyordum. İnşallah bozmamışızdır. Kapı kapanmıyor mu? Neyse arkadaşlar buyurun girelim ya. Ha dur şuna basacağız. Ve burada bir yükleme ekranıyla mı karşılaşıyoruz? İlginç.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape'den kaçmadık zaten. Tabii ki de buraya gireceğiz. Allah Allah. Açın. Arkadaşlar sesi duyuyor musunuz? Klavye sesi gibi çıkıyor. Etkileşim sesi bu. Işıkları açmanın vakti geldi.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
İşte biz bu anlatışa ilahi anlatışı diyoruz arkadaşlar. İlahi bakış açısı. Her şeyi biliyor. Kameraları açma vakti geldi.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Wow. Birisi kovulmuş. İletişi kovulmuş. Dur o kovulan şeyine bakmak istiyorum. Ben miyim lan o? Benim odaya benziyor. Neyse. Birisi kırmızı bir odada çalışıyormuş. 152 herhalde. Asansör çarmına vaddede elde geçiyor.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Arkadaşlar bilmem biliyor musunuz da bunun demosunda da bu tuşa benzer bir tuş vardı diye hatırlıyorum. Bu oyunun bir de demosu da var arkadaşlar. O demosunu çekmeyeceğim çünkü başta birileri çekmiş. Onları izleyebilirsiniz. Demesi de mi anlarsınız?
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Tabii ki de sistem power on değil. Adam dediği her şeyi yapmamız için off'a basacağız. Off. Sistem çöktü. Bir sesler geliyor. Aman ya.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved.
Tabii ki de.
Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold?
Bu challenge adının diğer bölümlerde arayacağız.
Streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Açık kapı mı? Geride kapı mı vardı? Abi, bu kapı değil. Çıkış burası. Çıkalım.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
O bitti deyin başarımı kazanmışız arkadaşlar. Güzel. Arkadaşlar bu son elimdeki kağıtlara göre nükleer patlama son olarak geçiyor ama nükleer patlama son olarak geçiyor. O ne alaka? Bir dakika arkadaşlar, bir şeye bakmak istiyorum. Acaba benim bilmediğim. Yok arkadaşlar, pardon. Nükleer patlama son değil bu. Yanlış söyledim. Özgürlük son. Evet arkadaşlar. Dediğim gibi her bölümde 2 tane son göstermeye çalışacağım dedim. Biraz önce adamın dediği her şeyi, ki orijinal ismi buradan attım. Orijinal ismi narration olarak geçiyor. Yani anlatıcı demek. Şimdi de ne kadar oyun değişmiş olsa da anlatışın hikaye bence değişmedi. Ondan dolayı bir de anlatışın dilinin tersine edelim ve bu bölümü isterseniz bitirelim. Buyurun.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Oyun değişti ama hadi ben değişmemiş gibi davranayım. I hate Mondays. Pazartesi'den nefret ediyorum.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Tabii ki de soldan değil sağdan gideceğiz. Çünkü adam dediğinin tersini yapmak
This was
istiyor.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Oğlum ben burayı beğendim. Daha duracağım.
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Değil mi? Yani benden dolayı gitti zaten.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
Evet, bana mesaj vermeye çalıştığını düşündüm ama vermiyorsun. Demek ki devam edeceğiz.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Bu kadar baş kaldırış yeter. Biz adamı dinleyelim.
Through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Oh no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Peki. Beni mi bekleyeceksin? Bekle lan. Kapıyı mı açtım? Neyse, burada yapacak bir şey yok. Devam edelim. Bir daha buraya girmem herhalde.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ama işte burada senin dediğini yapmamam gerekiyor. Buyurun, aşağı inelim.
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
Tabii ki de.
Considered the possibility of facing his boss. admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Ne oluyor lan?
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical star field, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Anlatıcı.
How the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange.
Abi tilklerim kendi kendine şu an.
Voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just...
Ne oluyor lan?
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Ne oldu?
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Abi tüylerim diken diken oldu ya. Ne oluyoruz? Korkmaya başladım.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Ne?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Bu mudur? The end is never, the end is never. Evet arkadaşlar, bu sonda ölümlü son olarak geçiyor. Arkadaşlar daha videonu bir de size başarım göstermek istiyorum. O başarımı gösterip isterseniz oyunu bitirelim. Ne oluyor lan? Telefon mu çalıyor? Abi her sonda oyun biter. Normalde oyunların bir sonu vardır. Bu oyunda sonu bitiriyor, sonra yeni bir sonlu oyun başlatıyor. Öperim. Adam da konuşmuyor. Neyse. Ben size şu başarıyı göstereyim. Ondan sonra oyunu bitirelim arkadaşlar.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Aynen. En burası bozulmamış olsun.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
Abi kapatmış. Ne yapıyorum ya?
hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Şimdi ofisi aşağıya falan indirmiştir bu diye korktum.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Şu anlatıcı bir sussun da.
Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation.
Ben ne adam dediğini
His
yapıyorum ya.
attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. 8. Stanley
Ve gördüğünüz gibi arkadaşlar başarımı da kazanmış olduk. 888 başarımı. O Clive'den 8 sesini duymamız gerekiyordu. Evet arkadaşlar, bir videomuzun daha sonuna geldik. Beni izlediğiniz için teşekkür ederim. Bir sonraki videolarda görüşmek üzere. Bay bay.